Hello and welcome to the Inside Social Work podcast, a podcast that aims to inspire, engage and connect social workers with other social workers and allied health professionals doing interesting and amazing things across the world. I'm your host, Marie Vakakis. Thank you for listening and I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Inside Social Work podcast. In this episode, I wanted to talk about boundaries, and we have had an episode in the past around boundaries. So that was episode 6, how to build a close and trusting relationship with clients while maintaining professional boundaries. In this episode today, though, I wanted to talk around personal boundaries, and it's something that we talk about often, and we interchange boundaries and self-care and use a range of different words, but I wanted to spend some time today and help unpack it a little bit. I've been recently revisiting some of Brene Brown's work, which I quite like, and one of the things I've been looking at is the elements of trust, and what does trust look like. And she's come up with this really lovely acronym called BRAVING, where it stands for, it's an acronym for boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgement and curiosity. And in her research, this is a really helpful way to conceptualize and operationalize the components of trust. And so I wanted to focus today on boundaries and how setting boundaries contributes to people trusting you and being reliable and living with integrity. And so I thought it's a good chance to explore this a little bit deeper and try and define a little bit. So boundaries are the limits that we set with other people, which give us a bit of an indication, or gives them an indication of what we find acceptable and unacceptable in their behaviour towards us. And getting to know our boundaries is really important, and it generally comes from a healthy sense of self-worth or valuing ourselves. So if we're very dependent on other people's feelings towards us, needing validation, admiration, gratitude, it can be really hard to set healthy boundaries. And what I've been reading about and what I've been learning is really just how important healthy boundaries are for self-care. They're really a crucial component. Some of the benefits or advantages of having healthy boundaries include having good mental health and good emotional health, as well as avoiding burnout. And there's so many benefits. The consequences, however, can be quite dire. It includes stress, feeling like you've wasted time, financial burdens and relationship issues. And whether it's in work or in our personal lives, poor boundaries can lead to resentment, hurt, anger, and burnout. And a lack of healthy boundaries can have a negative impact really across all areas of life. So it's really important to have a think about how you can set your boundaries. So I'm going to go through some of the things that I've discovered and I invite you to consider what might be helpful for you. To recap, boundaries really, they help us take care of ourselves by giving us permission to say no to things, not to take everything on, and not to overcommit. And I know some people do this out of a desire to please, to help others, but in the long run, not having healthy boundaries actually erodes trust. So if you want people to trust you, if you want to feel that you're maintaining integrity and you're authentic, then having healthy boundaries is crucial to that. So the first thing I think we need to do is knowing our boundaries. And knowing our boundaries and setting them and sticking to them are two very different hurdles to overcome, and I will talk a little bit about both. But starting off by working out your limits, starting to clearly define what your intellectual boundaries are, emotional, physical, spiritual, and how this might change from person to person. You might have different boundaries with strangers, with work colleagues, with friends, families, and intimate partners. So these might change depending on the relationship, and they might evolve and change over time. So have a think about what you're capable of taking on, and it might vary from time to time or season to season. It could be during busy periods of the year that you feel you can take less on, or maybe there's health reasons. It's very varied. So if you're not sure where to start, I want you to, or I encourage you to examine past experiences where you felt discomfort, anger, resentment, or frustration with someone, because those feelings of overwhelm or discomfort might indicate that you have a boundary that's been broken. So it might be that your limits have been crossed. So have a think about occasions where that might happen, and that could be a really good clue to start working out what your limits are. And remind yourself of the benefits of sticking to them, so that, what do you gain? You become more trustworthy, more reliable, more authentic, honest. You might be a better friend, a better parent, a better colleague. By having boundaries and sticking to them, it will help you across a number of areas of your life. So once you've had a chance to figure out what those boundaries are, the next step is to be assertive and communicate them. You need to communicate them often, frequently, and clearly, and this is your responsibility, because people can't read your mind. And this is simple, but it can be really difficult, and it might take some practice to implement. So if you need to start practicing managing and building up boundaries, you also need to perhaps build up your assertiveness skills. So remember that being assertive doesn't mean that you're unkind. It means that you're being fair and being honest. And actually, that's kind of kinder in the long term. So remember that braving acronym that I spoke about earlier. Boundaries builds trust. So if you're getting stuck, here are a couple of things you can try, or a few things you can try. So try thinking of some similar situations if none of these are relevant, and practice being assertive. So if the barista got your coffee order wrong, ask them for what you actually ordered. If a family member is intruding on your dating life or making suggestions around your finances or what you should do, let them know that you would rather talk about something else. Is someone at work piling work onto you or pushing their work onto you? Remind them that it's not within your scope. You're busy with your own work, and direct them to someone who'll be better suited or be able to serve them. If a friend hurt you or said something that upset you, ask them to meet for lunch and explain why their words or actions hurt you. If someone's inviting you to an event that you're too busy to attend, let them know. Thanks for thinking of me, but I'm going to say no this time. We need to sit with that discomfort of a potential awkward silence, or if someone is disappointed because we've set a boundary, that is okay. They are allowed to be disappointed, and that is their job to regulate that. It's not our job to change our boundary or to adjust it to appease them. If they are upset, if they are uncomfortable, that's okay. It's really important to be assertive, be clear. You can still be kind, you can still be gentle, and have your boundaries communicated well. So start with some small adjustments. Commit to following through with some small boundary changes and help build your confidence to make it easier. If you do this over time, those harder decisions in the future will be a little bit easier. And remember to practice self-compassion. This is hard to do all of the time. You might make mistakes, or you probably will make mistakes. And if you don't follow through on a boundary, it's okay. Don't judge yourself. Treat yourself with kindness and give it another go. So what gets in the way? It's not as easy as it sounds. This stuff can be really hard. So for some people, I find that saying no is really difficult, and it's one of our most fundamental needs for social connection and feeling liked and connected. and that we belong. So saying no can feel threatening to our relationships, and it threatens that feeling of connectedness and can really induce feelings of fear or rejection. So people tend to worry about saying no because they don't want to disappoint or hurt others, or hurt their feelings or let them down. And that's kind of normal. It's normal to have concerns over what people will think about you. You can feel guilty or anxious that people won't trust or value your opinion if you say no. And these feelings won't go away quickly or easily, but you can start by saying no, and remember that in the long term, it will build trust and it will build integrity and authenticity. And often, those who find this hard, it's because you want to be there for people you care about and you value relationships. And if you're the one at work who says yes to everything, you might think that it reflects how much you value people, but it can't be sustained. And it's really important to stick to your boundaries, and saying no won't ruin those relationships, not the good ones anyway. And also, if someone is disappointed, they might be disappointed, and that will still be okay. Both things can kind of sit parallel together. The next thing that comes up is a lack of confidence. So try not to doubt yourself, as people sometimes see that doubt as a window of opportunity, which they might eagerly exploit. So if you're like, I'm not sure I can take on more work, then someone might put in a little bit more pressure. But if you say, unfortunately, I'm at capacity, I can't take on anything else, and it's assertive and clear, there's less wiggle room. So some people will look for ways to take advantage. And keep it simple. You can say no. There's no need to explain why. You don't need to apologize. A simple no is fine. You can soften it. I appreciate that you trust me enough, ... However, I'm unable to help you in this regard. Remember that saying no is your right, and you have nothing to apologize for because you haven't done anything wrong. You may be able to offer an alternative. If someone says, are you able to take on more work? This week I'm at capacity. Next week I do have a bit of time on Wednesday afternoon where I can help you out if that works. So you can set limits and boundaries that way as well. And when you say yes, be clear about what yes means. What does it involve? How much responsibility will fall on you? If someone asks you to be their bridal party, what's that going to involve? What's the time commitment? What are their expectations? If you're taking on a new project or you're taking on a leadership position, having an idea of what will be involved and how much responsibility falls on you is really important. So it's okay not to say yes straight away, to say thank you for the offer, thank you for the invite, I really appreciate you thinking of me. Let me find out a little bit more, or let me check my diary and get back to you. You don't have to say yes straight away. It's okay to set those boundaries and protect yourself. I hope that was helpful. It's something that comes up a lot in my work with clients as well as supervisees. So I thought I'd do a little episode just sharing some of the things that I have found over the years that have been helpful for me, and some of the common struggles that people have mentioned. I'll pop a link in the show notes to the other episode on boundaries, which was more around maintaining professional boundaries. So if you want to check that out, it was early on in episode 6. And thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. The Inside Social Work podcast would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we record this podcast today and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you for listening. If you would like to support the podcast, you could leave a rating or a review on iTunes or wherever it is you get your podcast, and feel free to join the Facebook group. It'd be great to hear from you. Have a lovely day. Bye.